Christian are on the way. And yes, they did run into talkative last time. What was talkative? What was his vice? People are talkative. People like to talk. There's nothing wrong with that. What was kind of his vice, though, that Bunyan was highlighting for us?
He believed that talking was equivalent to doing.
Yes. Believed that talking was equivalent to doing. You could talk about theology, you could talk about Christianity, you could talk about all these things, but when faithful and Christian, wanted to actually know, has this pierced your heart? Have you actually been born again? Have you actually had repentance in your life? And have you actually looked to Christ in your own life? He didn't want to actually go there. He wanted to talk about theology, but he didn't actually want to talk about how it actually penetrated and affected him and how he was now part of Christ's church. Well, now we're going to move on from talkative to probably one of the most famous sections of this story. It's actually so famous that there is a magazine that is named after this section. And we all know what that is. Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair. Christian and faithful are on the path, and they're going to come to Vanity Fair. Before we jump into this, I just wanted to mention how insightful Bunyan is here yet again. We're going to see evangelists give them a warning, and then they're going to go into the city. And Bunyan shows us here that so often what drives people away from the church and what drives them away from Christ is not just argumentation and people being so wise that they persuade them that Christ is not true, or that Christ's resurrection is not true, or that the triune God is not true. That does happen at times, of course. But what really is one of the more deadly things that Christians and that those that are maybe not actually Christians but then get pulled away from Christ, what the danger is the distractions of the world, the pleasures of the world, the vain things that are all for sale there in Vanity Fair as they're going through. These so often take and corrupt the hearts of many and pull them away from the true gospel of Christ. And so we're going to see that here today as Christian and faithful go on their journey and go through Vanity Fair. But they get a warning first, as I already kind of mentioned. But who is it that comes along to give them a warning? The good guy. Evangelist, that's right. Evangelist comes back and he says he wants to give them a warning. First, he's very uplifted, right, by hearing about their journey. And Evangelist is this recurring character throughout the book. This is not even the second time that we've seen him. This is the third time now that we have seen him. He came to Christian right after he had gone along the path up the mountain toward Mr. Legality's house to try to get his burden removed from him by Mr. Legality. Evangelist warned him then, and now Evangelist is back here to give another warning, but he also is very happy to hear what's going on with the man that converted to Christ, the one that he preached to and the one who is now on the journey to the celestial city. Evangelist is this wonderful character that keeps popping up because he reminds us so much, I think, of the mentors that we have had in our lives, those that pulled us to Christ when we were perhaps younger or we were not Christians yet, and how wonderful, how joyful a thing it is for someone who has invested so much time and tried to point someone to Christ to come along years later and see the work of Christ in that person's life. Sometimes we can remember the evangelists in our lives, and sometimes the Lord in his providence causes us to be an evangelist in someone else's life. And what joy it is to see the progress that those that we have become mentors of are making in their spiritual journey.